morning Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc.
The CCJ begins hearings on election-related matters in Guyana. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Wednesday, May 8, 2019. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. It's a busy week at the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, for Guyana, with 3 days set aside for hearings on 2 election-related matters. In the first such case, the CCJ on a Wednesday reserved its ruling in the constitutional motion brought by Zulfikar Mustafa, who has alleged that President David Granger failed to properly exercise his discretion in the appointment of retired Justice James Patterson as chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, GECOM. He's arguing that the appointment is in breach of the Constitution. Asked by the 5-member panel of judges that included CCJ President Justice Adrian Saunders what he'd like to occur should the CCJ rule in favor of his client, the attorney representing Mustafa, Douglas Mendez, said the orders may be impacted by the results of the appeal, which the court will hear on Thursday and Friday.
What I would ask the court to do, if the court does come to that conclusion, is to hear the parties again on what further consequential orders ought to be made. I'm saying that because the decision that you make, or the orders that you make in this case, if you are minded to set aside the appointment, may be impacted by the result of the appeal which you are to hear tomorrow. In other words, if the court were to conclude in relation to that appeal that an election must be held, and that it must be held within a short period of time, then we would want to address the court on whether you ought to consider suspending, quashing the order, quashing the appointment of the chairman, in order that the election would not be disrupted. But we would only know exactly what the playing field looks like after the court has made a decision in that case.
But Queen's Counsel Hal Gollop, one of 2 attorneys who made arguments to the CCJ on behalf of the Office of the Attorney General in Guyana, urged the CCJ to dismiss the appeal.
I urge the court to disallow the appeal. To disallow the appeal.
Yes.
And I should ask the court not to be persuaded by my friends' urging, to find that both parties were wrong, so we should have an order in suspension. That would defeat the practical political purposes which have brought us here. Because we have been brought here by political considerations. So that too would create a burdensome and unnecessary administrative bungle if this court were to make that kind of order which my friend has urged it.
The Jamaica Parliament has approved a 90-day extension of the state of emergency in the western parishes of Hanover, St. James and Westmoreland. Tuesday night, the House of Representatives approved the measure by 41-1, with former National Security Minister Peter Bunting being the only one to vote against the measure. The other 18 members of Parliament were absent when the vote was taken following a lengthy debate. Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips told Parliament that his People's National Party would not block the extension, as he stressed that the situation had to be brought under control for the sake of law-abiding Jamaicans. But he sent a warning to the government that there would be no repeat of last year. And that's when several extensions were granted for the state of emergency in St. James, which was first declared in January 2018 and continued until the end of that year. However, it came to an end in January this year when the opposition refused to support further extensions. A back-to-work order has been issued for workers of the Jamaica Public Service whose industrial action resulted in a power outage that left several sectors at a standstill. Scores of Jamaicans were left in darkness on Monday night and into Tuesday morning as JPS employees protested over their dissatisfaction with ongoing wage negotiations between their union and the company's management. We get more in this TVJ News report.
As if being in darkness the night before wasn't bad enough, the lack of electricity continued Tuesday morning, impacting several industries. Motorists throughout the corporate area found themselves at a standstill in several locations as traffic signals were down. Malines, Halfway Tree, Hope and Old Hope Roads were among several where traffic was barely moving. Officers from the JCF's Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, PSTEP, had to be deployed at most intersections as they tried to restore order. In a statement to the media, the National Works Agency, which has responsibility for traffic signals, acknowledged the chaos, but said there was nothing they could do as the signals can only be restored following the reinstatement of power supply. But in addition to manning traffic signals, area divisional and shift commanders of the JCF, as well as operations officers, were put on alert Monday evening. A memorandum from Deputy Commissioner of Police Clifford Blake outlined that the strike action was imminent and any disruption of JPS service was seen as a possible threat to national security. By 9 a.m. Tuesday, business places started feeling the impact as well. Workers arriving late, small businesses with no electricity unable to open, and point-of-sale transactions impossible. National Commercial Bank forced to issue a statement to customers that interruptions in power supply have rendered ABMs and point-of-sale terminals temporarily unavailable. The power outages, which started Monday evening, were also reported in sections of Manchester, Portland, and St. Thomas. For some of these communities, including Yallas in St. Thomas, no electricity means no water, a double distress for residents and households. Energy Minister Favour Williams has called on the JPS and the unions representing the company's technical workers to address the wage disputes in a timely manner as a matter of national importance.
Belizeans are using the final few hours to have their voice heard in a referendum on whether the country should take its decades-old border dispute with Guatemala to the International Court of Justice, ICJ. The 344 polling stations across the country are scheduled to close at 6 p.m. local time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern Caribbean time. And the Electoral Office is expecting final results by midnight or early Thursday morning. 148,500 voters were eligible to cast their ballots in the referendum, in which electors were asked to answer yes or no to the question. Do you agree that any legal claim of Guatemala against Belize relating to land and insular territories and to any maritime areas pertaining to these territories should be submitted to the International Court of Justice for final settlement, and that it determine finally the boundaries of the respective territories and areas of the parties? Prime Minister Dean Barrow and opposition leader John Briceño had encouraged voters to support their causes, with the government urging a yes vote and the opposition a no vote. And in a last-minute appeal to voters, Barrow had said the referendum was a national issue that should never divide citizens along party lines. The vote is being observed by teams from the Commonwealth and CARICOM, as well as the British, US and Taiwan embassies. And the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Belize Network of NGOs also deployed 72 monitors at polling and counting stations across the country to help ensure a smooth voting process. CARICOM Chairman Dr. Timothy Harris says peace will continue to elude the politically divided Venezuela until the contending parties are encouraged to sit down and reach agreement. And he said significant groups cannot be excluded from any peaceful process to resolve the crisis. Harris issued the caution at the third ministerial meeting of the International Contact Group on Venezuela, which was held in Costa Rica on Tuesday, as he reiterated CARICOM's position of non-intervention and respect for constitutional order and democracy. At least 3 people have been killed and several others injured in clashes between opposition and government supporters in the last week, since opposition leader Juan Guaido called on the military to support the effort to remove President Nicolas Maduro from power. Harris said those events have indicated that CARICOM needs to move quickly. Coming up, Trinidad and Tobago's Police Complaint Authority investigates a reported police shooting of a 14-year-old girl and 2 others. Stay with us.
The world's debt is 184 trillion US dollars. That's about 86,000 US dollars per person. Join Linda Tessar, the Central Bank of Barbados 2019 Distinguished Visiting Fellow for the 6th edition of the Caribbean Economic Forum, as she helps us understand just how in a world of rising debt, we in the Caribbean can stay afloat. Follow this important live broadcast of the 6th Caribbean Economic Forum on social media and on radio and television in Barbados and across the region. Thursday, May 23rd at 8 p.m., 7 p.m. in Jamaica. Visit www.centralbank.org.bb for more information.
It was all smiles, a bunch of fake dog. I'm so proud. I seen you on a magazine. Oh wow.
I'm here with the saxophonist, Ricardo Seals. He just tore the stage down. The crowd wanted more, and he did give them more. Tell us, we heard a little bit of everything in your performance.
Well, as an artist, as a performer, as a saxophonist, I like to give the people what they want actually. I'm an entertainer.
Trinidad and Tobago's Police Complaint Authority has initiated an investigation into the fatal shooting of a 14-year-old girl and 2 other people, allegedly by police officers. According to local reports, 16 people have been killed in officer-involved shootings this year. We get more in this TV6 News report.
Teenager Naomi Nelson was among 3 shot and killed in the crossfire on Friday. The autopsy report revealed that she was shot once to the back of the head. Speaking at the Forensic Science Center earlier today, relatives said they feel vindicated because the autopsy report showed that she had no involvement in the incident, as she would have been running away from the melee caught by a stray bullet. The other deceased are Karen Eve and Kareem Baldwin Roberts. The PCA says its civilian investigators will conduct an independent probe and submit a report to the authority, and then they decide whether there is sufficient evidence to recommend prosecution. These releases have become quite common for the Police Complaints Authority. The authority investigates all report of police-involved shootings. Looking at the numbers, this year alone, there are 16 of them. 23 people have died. This includes yesterday's incident in Chaguanas. For the similar period last year up until May 12th, there were 11 police-involved shootings and 14 people died as a result. For all of 2018, the PCA investigated 33 fatal police-involved shootings. And since August 2018, when Police Commissioner Gary Griffith took office, the PCA has recorded 20 fatal police shootings. We've reached out to the TTPS to see if their figures match those of the PCA. We're awaiting a response.
Staying in Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says his predecessor, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, cannot wash her hands clean as two members of her opposition United National Congress face criminal charges allegedly committed while she led the coalition government. Former Attorney General Anand Ramlogan and lawyer Gerald Ramdeen have each been slapped with 3 charges stemming from an alleged legal fees kickback scheme during Ramlogan's tenure between 2010 and 2015, when the UNC formed the biggest partner in the Coalition People's Partnership government headed by Prasad-Bissessar. Prime Minister Rowley told a meeting of the ruling People's National Movement in Chaguanas on Tuesday night that the now opposition leader also has to answer for what happened back then.
I want to say to Mrs. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, the difficulty that your 2 cronies got involved in at the court, you will not be allowed to exonerate and distance yourself from them. It is my intention to bolt them to your chest.
Rowley said that as the then opposition leader, he had questioned the significant sums of money allocated to the office of the Attorney General during Prasad-Bissessar's term in office, and he was adamant that she was in a position to have known that something was radically wrong and to have done something about it. Jamaica hoping to complete its national investment policy this year. Guyana says it's on track to begin oil production next year. We get the details in this week's Newsline Business.
Newsline Business is brought to you by Solar Dynamics.
The Jamaica government says it is working to complete its national investment policy before year-end. Minister of State for Industry and Commerce, Floyd Green, says the policy will guide the development, administration, and monitoring of the investment community.
And we think it is critical that as a country, we have a policy that will guide the development and administration of our investments and help monitor and encourage our investment community. It will ensure that there is cohesion through all related initiatives, programs, incentive regimes, and stakeholder contributions. In fact,
Director of Economics at the Caribbean Development Bank, Dr. Justin Ram, says the Caribbean continues to be impacted by global uncertainties despite past improvements in the domestic economy. He was addressing the opening of the 20th annual conference of the Sir Arthur Lewis Institute for Social and Economic Studies in Bridgetown on Tuesday. Dr. Ram said there is a need to rethink the Caribbean's future as several factors continue to threaten the region's sustainability.
What are those challenges? If I summarize them, I would say the vulnerabilities related to climate change, high debt and low growth. And these are, of course, manifest through unacceptable high poverty rates, unemployment, particularly among the young, rising levels of citizen insecurity, and industries that are far too often uncompetitive. But besides these, we must also tackle the stalled integration process. Surviving in an increasingly digitalized world, including the world of data analytics.
Guyana says it is on track to begin producing oil by the first quarter of 2020. Natural Resources Minister Raphael Trotman says while he cannot give an exact date when the first oil will be poured, work is on schedule.
So I think we need to be mindful of the fact that there is going to be extensive testing to ensure that the systems are safe and secure and working before we can be clear that first oil is in place. I can say that we are on schedule for first quarter 2020.
Mary-Claire Williams, Newsline Business.
Newsline Business was brought to you by Solar Dynamics.
When we were building in 1984, we decided to get the solar water heater.
We use it up to this morning. From my home, we get rain 2 days and I still get hot water.
I've had it for 30 years and I have no problems with it up to this day.
All I can say is that anyone who wishes to have a system, try Solar Dynamics.
Solar Dynamics water heater systems are now right through the Caribbean.
Ahead in Newsline Sport, Kieron Pollard to play for his native Trinbago Knight Riders in the CPL for the first time. We'll be right back.
To baritone, soon them a guess to say he's a queen up on the throne. Pounding them, five stars up on the street, eh. Can't stall nor defeat. 2030 we still a do it. Every stage show we still a keep. Every big song they a repeat. Them a whisper. We are the fire, fire full of love. Give me the kinds I know, and me say, "Jah give me the signs like, whoa, coffee come in like a rapture."
Brunswick promotion is on, and we visited wholesales and supermarkets in Maypen to hear how consumers feel about the Brunswick products. I love the tuna. What's your favorite?
I grew up eating Brunswick. It's like a tradition, the parents, and then it handed down to me, and then my kids, them, you know, 'cause that's all they see I buy in the house, Brunswick. So if they're going to buy a sardine on the street, they're going to buy Brunswick.
Brunswick sardine has been a favorite of Jamaicans for decades.
International T20 star Kieron Pollard will play for his native Trinbago Knight Riders for the first time in the upcoming Caribbean Premier League CPL. The two-time reigning champions announced Wednesday they had signed the 31-year-old as their marquee player for the season, which runs from September 4th to October 12th. Trinidadian Pollard spent the first 5 seasons of the CPL as captain of Barbados Tridents before moving to St. Lucia Stars for the 2018 season. He will join the likes of the Bravo brothers, Dwayne and Darren, along with off-spinner Sunil Narain, in what is expected already a powerful TKR lineup. The final squad will be decided at the Players' Draft in London on May 22nd. Last season, TKR defeated the Guyana Amazon Warriors in the final to successfully defend the title they had captured the previous year when they beat St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots. Pollard is expected to be an asset to TKR with his powerful middle-order hitting, which earned him 330 runs last season at an average of 47. Overall, he has gathered 9,275 runs in his T20 career, along with 261 wickets, to be one of the most successful players in the format. Staying with cricket, West Indies century maker Shai Hope says tough conditions at Castle Avenue made it difficult for his side to set up a competitive total against Bangladesh on Tuesday. The low-ranked Asian side crossed the West Indies by 8 wickets in the Tri-Nation Series, despite Hope's second straight ODI ton. Hope's ODI form has been outstanding over the last 12 months, and he now averages 50 from 51 innings. During Tuesday's innings, he became the fastest West Indies batsman to reach 2,000 runs, needing only 47 innings to pull it off. Hope says while he was satisfied with his form, he was disappointed with the Windies' latest result.
Yes and no. Obviously, I'm pleased with the runs. Just trying to be as consistent as possible, so I'm very happy with those runs. But obviously, won't be pleased with the loss. So. Yes, it wasn't the easiest wicket for stroke players here. The line and length that the Bangladeshi bowlers bowled pretty good. Very straight, I should say. And then at the back end, when the runs started to flow a bit more, I had to pick up the ante, and unfortunately, I got out at that stage, and that's probably why we didn't get as much runs as we could have.
Looking ahead to the final 2 matches on May 11th and 13th, Hope said he expects his side to finish on a high.
Obviously some wins to start, but then just trying to add to what we started here, and previously the Caribbean against England, so just trying to keep growing as a team and putting up those performances.
Former England Test star Andrew Flintoff says Barbadian Jofra Archer is a must for England's World Cup campaign and urged selectors to drop anyone to accommodate the rising star. Debate has raged in recent weeks over the inclusion of Archer, born to a British father, for the May 30th to July 14th showpiece. He was not picked in the preliminary 15-man squad, but is set to feature in the 5-match one-day series against Pakistan beginning Wednesday. Players in the World Cup squad, especially those whose places are under threat by Archer's presence, have publicly warned about disruption to the team unity if the 24-year-old was fast-tracked into the squad at the expense of a settle of the side. But Flintoff said he did not anticipate any such fallout. Archer was born in Barbados to a British father and played a handful of matches for West Indies under 19s 6 years ago before deciding to try his luck in England. He qualified in March to represent that country after the England and Wales board reduced the eligibility period from 7 years to 3 years. Over to the Cayman Islands, where the island's national netball team hopes to reverse its 5-year-long losing streak when they enter Netball's Europe's Open Challenge in the British territory, the Isle of Man, on Thursday. Cayman 27's Jordan Armaniz spoke with newly appointed head coach Lyneth Monteith, who is optimistic about the team's chances overseas.
August 24th, 2014. That's the last time the Cayman Islands senior netball team has won an international game. But with 7 changes to the squad that was blanked by Canada in November, new head coach Lyneth Monteith says the journey to the Isle of Man for the Netball Europe Open Challenge will pay off.
Players, if you looked at the stats, some of them have 3 caps. In other words, they've done 3 international tournaments. We have some who've been playing since they were under 16. So you have that progression coming through. And really the skill, the balance in the team is what will make the big difference.
And what would a win do for this program? Catherine Gow hopes a W would give this squad the confidence it's lacked in past years.
It'd be huge, and I think we're just starting to believe it, which I think is the key this time. You know, we've been away before, and I guess we've expected maybe not to win, but we really do believe in ourselves this time, so it would be really special if we could get it this time around.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
When we were building in 1984, we decided to get the solar water heater.
We use it up to this morning. From my home, we get rain 2 days that I still get hot water.
I've had it for 30 years, and I have no problems with it up to this day.
All I can say is that anyone who wishes to have a system, try Solar Dynamic.
Solar Dynamics water heater systems are now right through the Caribbean.
She's a very textbook orthodox boxer, so you can't sort of anticipate what she's going to do. And like I said,
Beto, go ahead.
Yeah, there was no instruction from Manny Robles in between rounds for Oscar Negrete. It was just motivation. They were pleading with him.
The fighting pride of Quebec, Canada, ladies and gentlemen.
Again, the major developments of this day, the CCJ begins hearings on election-related matters in Guyana, including a challenge to the appointment of the Elections Commission chairman. And in sport, Kieran Pollard to play for his native Trinbago Knight Riders in the CPL for the first time. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CanadaNews.com. For more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and have yourselves a good night.